Welcome to our third episode of Truth Be Told. I am your co-host, Nia, Tony, whichever you prefer. To the right of me, I have Steph, and to the left of me, I have Q, who you all pretty much know at this point right now.
I hope so.
Right, if you don't know. So today, our quote that we're opening up with is one that I found a lot of truth in, and a lot of just reflection in it as well. It comes from Instagram. I don't know who said it, but if you said it, thanks for the quote. But it says, sometimes the healing hurts more than the wound. And I know that I can identify with this because sometimes when you're trying to heal through a particular situation, it may not be as what you thought it would look like, right? And this episode is really going to deal with mental health, and how we navigate mental health issues, how we know that we are having a mental health crisis, and some of the tips and tricks that we hope that you all can take away from it if you are dealing with them, especially in the time of COVID, when things are just happening super rapidly. So even to open up with you all, like how has, and I hate to start with COVID, but it's reality is what it is. Since COVID or during this time period, how would you rate your mental health? From a 1 being like, I'm good, to a 10, actually from a 1 being like, this is the worst I've ever felt, to a 10 being like, I'm solid, I made it out.
Right now, I would say that mine is at an 8. But I will say that like Q1 of this year, it was at like a 4. And even during COVID, when COVID first started and we were first like quarantining, I would say that mine was maybe at like a 6, a solid 6. And I'll say that just because obviously, like anybody else, this COVID was just a hell of a new experience for everyone. And it literally just took us out of our norm. So I was used to like going outside every day and, you know, being around my friends and being able to have certain experiences that literally just stopped. And it was driving me crazy. And then, it was a lot happening at that time. So people were dying and we didn't know if it was Black Lives Matter or if it was people being sick. So I can definitely say at that moment when quarantine first started, it definitely took a toll. But for me, the real survive.
The real do survive, and some of them die. But
Whoa, I didn't want to get
that was heavy.
That's a fact.
It's a fact, but like.
But for me personally, throughout COVID, I'll say for my mental, I personally got better. Like being inside, I don't even be in, like during COVID, like the last year, the first period of COVID, I was inside. But like for me at this point, I mean, I like working remote. I don't like going to the office. So as soon as I heard we working from home, I was happy. I was hoping not to get it, but I was happy. And then like even now, I'm so used to it. Like it's just daily life now. You feel me? But like my mental, I'll put at an 8. I'll put at an 8. Yeah.
Okay.
What about you?
I ain't gonna lie, I was like a 3.
You have it at a 3 now, or
not right now. Right now, I'm at like a 5. Like there's been a little progression, but not much. But I was like a 3 because, like Stephanie said, it was like rapid. Like literally, we went from May 1st to being met at New Apollo, dancing on couches, acting stupid, indictment. January 1st, acting stupid, indictment to you're not going anywhere. You're not talking you're not going anywhere. And that was a major shift for me. And then on top of that, just when you have time to think, like I just had way too much time to think about my experiences and things that like were bothering me the whole time that I never really dealt with. And it's just me and my mom's in the crib. So
so you internalize all of that.
You internalize all of that stuff. Like it got to the point where I was like working out 3 times a day in the crib, to gaining weight, to now trying to lose it again, to like my body just went through all these different changes that I wasn't, or that I haven't really experienced at such a rapid
Do you feel
pace.
like it was because you didn't have as much distractions, like going out, like you in the crib more?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like your mind is still thinking about that.
Yeah.
But at least when you go outside, you're distracted with your friends.
Yeah.
Or, you know
and you're constantly moving,
exactly,
right? Yeah. Like I think being still worked in my favor because I started to study more for the LSAT and things like that. But at the same time, like, I'll be the first to say, I was like low key. I was depressed.
Yeah.
Like, I was literally depressed. Like, and that leads me into my question is like, when I was going through a situation, I didn't tell nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody. Like, you know, like, whatever. Like, I didn't tell nobody because it was like, I had to sit with myself. And that's why I think I brought it up in a conversation, but basically just saying, like, as I get older and I go through things and mental health becomes an issue for me, I don't reach out to my friends like how I thought I would in the past. And like, people were like, yo, Nia, something's wrong with you. Like, what is the problem? And I'm like, I'll tell y'all when I'm ready. I'll tell y'all when I'm ready. I'll tell you when I'm ready. Some friends really didn't know what was wrong with me until like a year after I was battling whatever I was battling with.
Why do you think you don't reach out? Because a lot of people do
that was my question. That's crazy.
Okay.
That's literally my question. Is like, when do you know when to reach out to your group or your support system to be like, yo, I'm going through something and I can't just sit with this?
Are you okay? For me personally, I don't, like, with my friends, I don't know. I mean, I won't say it's just men in general. We're just like less vulnerable with each other. Mm-hmm. But I don't like to put my, like, any negative energy or like any sadness that I have on someone else unless like that's really like my person, like really mainly like a significant other or a family member, and they really like know what I'm going through. You know what I mean? Because I don't like to put this on someone and also them know that, because I don't like to be vulnerable with everyone. You know what I mean? I want to paint the picture. I want you to see me for how I want you to see me. You know what I mean? And I want you to view me in any different way. Or like some people could somewhat look down on you. You know what I mean? Because like even in our community and like older people in the Black community, they don't really believe in therapy like that. Yeah. You mentioned it to I mentioned to my grandma, like, I don't need therapy. You know, make it seem like it's a negative connotation. Yeah.
I never know like what it is that I'm going through in the moment. You know, like it takes me a while to even understand what it is that I'm going through, and for me to even like process it and put it into words for me to be able to tell somebody. You know, so I think after I'm going through whatever it is that I'm going through, like I know, for example, earlier this year I was having like back-to-back anxiety attacks, right? And I didn't know that I was having anxiety attacks until I had a conversation with someone that was like, yo, I was literally in the midst of travel and just started crying. And it was like, oh, that sounds like an anxiety attack. And I'm like, oh, shit, maybe it is. You know, like I never felt depression until I had to tell somebody, like, these are the cycles that I'm having. And they're like, well, I had to have a conversation with somebody that's dealt with depression, you know, and they were like, okay, well, that's the same stuff that I dealt with, and maybe you are depressed, you know, like, not to sit here and self-diagnose or anything, but maybe it's the truth, you know, that's really what you're going through. So I think for me, sometimes it just takes for me to like understand it myself, like what am I going through, for me to tell the next person like, yo, this is what I'm dealing with, and you know, like how can you help if you can help, like
I mean, in some situations I feel you should self-diagnose, because you can look at self-diagnosing yourself as acknowledgement. You know what I mean? Like you're going through something. I'm trying. You see this?
It's the glasses. It's the glasses.
I wanted to point out since this is a serious episode, I put on a polo shirt and glasses. I don't usually do this. This is prescribed.
They are.
She tried. These are really nice though.
They are. I'm like, you need to wear glasses more often.
Yeah,
this is a different person that's at this table right now.
I guess I'm always. So that's the wisdom. There, go on.
Okay.
So loving the transparency, appreciate the transparency from you all. But there's also something that Q, you had mentioned that's actually still here in my notes as well. And it's this idea of like when you're in a relationship with someone, right? And one of the things that, I'm not in a relationship right now, but one of the things that I was thinking about was like, dang, like, how can you put this on someone? Right? Like the things that you go through, how do you know that what you are dealing with is enough for someone that you're dealing with intimately can carry? You know?
I think that.
But wait, I'm sorry. I love the enthusiasm. But wait. So one quote that I've come up with during quarantine and just like me processing my own thoughts is that like that person is supposed to be there for you through recovery, but they're not supposed to heal you, right? It's like a doctor. Like the doctor is going to heal you, but the family can be with you in recovery. You get what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it when I see like think of the idea of like a spouse helping and dealing with the trauma and the the mental issues that you have.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like in some people look or depend on their spouse too much. But in a sense, it is just because, like I said earlier, like just now, like be aware of who you make yourself vulnerable with.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay.
I think that a lot of times your significant other will kind of catch on to whatever it is or shifting your energy, you know? So if I'm dating someone and I'm the one that's dealing with my depression or my anxiety or whatever the case may be, my significant other is bound to catch on. Like, yo, you're moving, different from how you normally move. What's going on? But I agree, it's only your approach and how you kind of dump it on the next person. You don't just sit here and be like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm dealing with.
Supposed to do.
Yeah, because that's not it. Like, yes, be there to help me and support me, but I can't depend on you. You know, like I can't sit here and say that you are supposed to heal me. Some way, somehow, I got to figure out how to internally heal all of that. So
yeah, I agree. And the next thing, like the way you kept saying dump, right? And I'm like, dang, that just sounds burdensome. That just sounds heavy, right? And so I wanted to see how your relationship with God is intertwined with mental health, right? Like me personally, I find great purpose and relief in knowing that I don't have to carry all the burdens that have been placed on me, right? And the idea of placing them on another human being just seems unrealistic. And there needs to be some type of relationship or understanding that God has literally given you the toolbox to deal with the things that you're dealing with, but you may not necessarily know which tool to use. It's like looking at a toolbox, like you're like, I need a wrench. No, maybe I don't need a wrench. I need this. I need the pliers, whatever. But I think sometimes when you only look at issues that you're going through as being so monolithic to just you having to deal with them and not seeking spiritual healing on the same side as like maybe therapy, you can kind of be digging yourself deeper into the hole and not even be realizing it because you have a false sense of healing or what healing should look like. So I guess what I'm asking you all is like, do you have a spiritual realm that you try to reach when you're dealing with mental issues?
Mine is definitely praying, definitely journaling, but when I'm journaling, it's not just journaling for myself. Like I'll literally, the conversation I feel like I would have with God, I feel like I have to write it out sometimes, That's my go-to sometimes, because a lot of times it can feel like you're being a burden to everybody else, or it can just feel like other people don't have the answers, Sometimes I just want to talk to somebody and have them be a listening ear, and I know that I always know that God will always be a listening ear because, like it's a spiritual being around you, so that's my go-to.
So, wait, the question again, it was like, what is my spiritual, like...
Do you use spiritual healing as a means to solidifying your mental issues at that moment?
Personally, no, I think I should, though, because I say that because I have a friend, I mean, like, Ibn, like, he's Muslim, and so when I used to go with him to Juma, and I saw, like, the focus that they had, and how they felt throughout, like I felt that energy and I liked that. It made me very much more interested to be a part of this religion, this culture, and then I actually like going there. So like, but I don't do that if I'm not with him, you know what I mean? Because also it's just like, he's my friend. I don't know how to in some spaces. I don't want to go by myself. You know what I mean? And then I also don't want to seem like I'm mocking them since I don't know too much of that. So no, I plan to. I hope to. I will say, but yeah.
Be happy at what you're saying, like, is the fact that, like, I want to be a part of it, I want to do it, but I just don't know how, right? And I think that's the first step, is just realizing that you need the relationship. You just don't know necessarily how to
go about
get the connectivity that you're looking for. But that's a real thing. My next question that I was going to ask you all in the idea of, like, mental health and things like that is, like, when you're dealing with the idea of pain or trauma caused by another person, right? And the idea is that people always say you need to forgive that person, forgive them for what they did. It'll, the moment you forgive them, things will get easier. But what if you have to learn how to forgive yourself for putting yourself in that situation?
Acknowledgement.
And it definitely circles back to self-reflection, and having to understand, like, the part that you played in the situation, right? To your point. Because a lot of times we'll get out of situations and we'll be like, oh no, that person did it. It was all that person. It was all that person. But it's like, what about you? What did you do? Because you allowed whatever X, Y, and Z to happen. So how could you have done something differently, right? So it takes that self-reflecting. It takes being honest with yourself and telling yourself, like, all right, Steph, I know this nigga done fucked up, but realistically, like, you let him slide. You really was letting him skate, you know?
I'll say for me personally, I'm quick to blame myself for
Same.
a lot. Like, because I'm just like, at the end of the day, I knew how you were, and I still entertained it. So I'm really not putting the blame on you. Like, yeah, I'm going to let you know about yourself. But, I mean, in some situations, I just move accordingly. I don't even care to, because I just blame myself, because... like I said, I put myself in that environment. I knew what the outcome potentially, it most likely was going to be. So who am I else to blame? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a victim. I want to play victim. I put myself in that situation.
But that's why I was saying, like, forgiving yourself, because I'm the same way. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'll be like, me. But it's like, whoa, like, at some point you can't just walk around thinking that you're the fault, that you called. Yeah, like, I'm the one that, you must like the toxicity type thing. You get what I'm saying? And I think one of the things that has kind of helped me through that is therapy. And I was going to ask you all, like, what are your thoughts on therapy? But I proudly go to therapy.
Listen, I say, I think everyone needs therapy. I don't mean it in a sense like everyone is crazy. Everyone needs someone to talk to that they don't personally know.
They just have an unbiased opinion.
An unbiased opinion and give you advice, or like, and sometimes they don't even give you advice. They just really listen. Exactly. Like, I went to 2 therapy sessions. My first therapy session was great because I experienced my first anxiety attack. He explained it all to me. His fight or flight response is nothing physically wrong with you. I thought there was something physically wrong with me. I went to the nurse. So I thought I was having like a heart attack, whatever. But yeah, like, breathe slowly. It just had a nice convo with him. You know what I mean? But also, no, not every therapist is for you. You know what I mean? Because my second therapy session made me not even want to go back to therapy. This lady she was judging me for certain things. And I was like, this is not the same vibe I got from another dude, you know? So also, like, if you go to therapy and you don't have a good experience, just know it's with that person. It's not, that's not a generalization of therapy. You know what I mean? But yeah, everyone needs someone to talk to.
I've never seen a therapist, but I'm in full support of people going to therapy. I myself even want to go to therapy, just again for not specifically for a traumatic situation, but like adulting. Basic adulting can get overwhelming sometimes, and like the both of you said, sometimes you just need a listening ear. Sometimes I just want to vent. And I think that a lot of times people are stuck in this mindset that they don't need therapy. I'm good. What's a therapist going to tell me? How is a therapist going to help me? And they're not even open to the idea of giving it a shot. And to your point, Q, like, they can have a one and done kind of experience. They can be like, nope, I tried it, it didn't work. Oh well, But instead, it's like we should be comfortable with going and talking to somebody and wanting to just better ourselves.
How do y'all feel then about, like, I don't know about y'all personally, but like from my experience with like older folk, and I know other people have this experience, but they look down upon therapy. They look at it like there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? It's a sign of weakness. Like, I've been through this and I'm here now. You don't see me complaining. So how you feel about that? Like,
I think that those people that older generation that's still like that is just like, it was their survival mechanism. Like, they didn't have time to feel that.
That's true.
Like, to go into therapy, you have to make time to feel the emotions that you keep acting like don't exist. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are times where I have to sit with my emotion and be like, I dead feel this way, and it blows mine that I'm sitting in this right now. But it's how I'm able to get through and become this person that I've always wanted to become. You get what I'm saying? But I think they kind of discredit themselves by not allowing themselves to feel, and just America, period. Like, we already know the racism. They didn't have the time.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean go sit down with somebody for an hour? Do you know that my husband is locked up and that I'm the sole provider? Do you know that this person died? That was the only person I wanted to talk to? Like, what do you mean sit down and talk to you?
Can't even afford it.
Can't even afford it.
Insurance don't even cover it.
That's a cute... Ooh.
Yeah, I'm
that is
glasses.
It's the glasses. That's a really good point that I was going to bring up as well. A lot of people feel like they can't afford it, right? So they're like, "What's my option?"
I mean, some people can't.
Yeah,
like some people like literally just can't. But that's it's just a matter of how serious America even takes mental health, right? Because it should be more, if anything, more free facilities, or not free, but a little more realistic and reasonable.
Yeah.
Our taxes could pay for that. Our taxes could pay for that.
Yeah.
You know, like there has to be some type of incentive for people to feel like, okay, I'm welcomed here. I can afford it. You know, and make it a little more realistic, because a lot of people have the same mentality.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people from where we're from, like we didn't grow up in those suburbs. We didn't grow up with a white picket fence. Like we really grew up off of survival, right? We grew up, like our friends have grown up off of survival. And even in conversations that you have with your friends, you can tell just by asking them, like, yo, you okay? Yeah, I'm good. Whole time. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You need help. You know, like
battling demons.
Yeah, you're battling demons.
I seen this post one time, and it was like, if you ever ask a black man if he good, and he say, all right, he's not all right, right? And that's like, and it was like, the guy was like, yeah, like somebody asked me how I was doing. I said, all right. And he's like, I knew, bro. Like I knew. And it was just like, even that underlining code of knowing that something is wrong, but just still not being able to confront it is traumatizing in itself. It's like someone having tape over your mouth. You get what I'm saying? So this is getting so good, and there's so many more questions that I want to ask y'all. But I guess my thing would be, we keep talking about reflection. In a generation where we ready to go back outside, we ready to hit the pavement again. What you mean reflect?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm feeling how I'm feeling, but I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to still... The streets is calling. We outside. I'm ready to be out. Like, what does reflection look like for 20-somethings right now? Or how do you reflect? I want tangible, real ways of what reflecting is.
I know for me, I'll use my time of being in Atlanta, right? I've been in Atlanta 2 years, 17 to 2019, right? And I know that was the like most I have ever self-reflected in my life. I think for me it was a matter of the circle that I kept around me. Like my friends, like you all were very reflective people, and you all knew how to take accountability for certain situations. So it made me realize, like, oh, okay, maybe I gotta try their strategies, you know? Again, journaling sometimes, that's also just helping me, because I sometimes you can't put stuff into words, you know? Sometimes you don't want to talk to the next person because it's an embarrassment, you know, and you kind of got to be okay and not feel embarrassed with whatever it is that you're going through. So that's some ways that works for me. And even having like actual conversations with people, you know, and knowing that I can trust y'all and come to y'all and be like, hey, this is my situation, you know, let me get y'all feedback on it. And then whatever y'all feedback is, being open and receptive to it. So those help me. Okay.
And I just really like I went deep into because you went, that was deeper than I thought. What was it again?
What is self-reflection for you? How do you think people or 28-something should be reflecting now? Like if you were going to give somebody steps, what would that be?
First off, internalize everything that you're going through in the moment. Like what bothers you, what doesn't, you know what I mean? Acknowledge not your wrongs, but your faults in a sense. Like, but also know that it's not done. Like you're in your 20-somethings. You know, I feel like we all feel like we're old. Yeah. I mean, in a sense, I do feel.
That
I feel
25 hit. I was like, dang.
I feel like I'm about to be 30.
I gotta get it together.
All the time, people that's in their 30s and their 40s looking at us like, dang, y'all.
And they still doing it.
You know, like
they still. So I mean, just look yourself in the mirror. Just know the race is not done yet.
Yeah. I have another quick point.
Yeah.
And also like getting a little more detailed, but really asking yourself certain questions like, okay, what happened? Okay. how did I play a part? How did this person play a part? How did it make me feel? Why did it make me feel that way? Yeah. And then what's the outcome? Like, it's literally a learning experience, you know?
Yeah. I guess my big thing for self-reflection is being, and I said this before, but just being okay with your voice and only your voice. And I think sometimes, especially like in relationships, like you'll always rely on your partner, or you'll always rely even on your friends, right? Like one thing that I'm big on now is I don't speak when, and maybe you can vouch for this, for real. Like, if you tell me something sometime, I don't give you no advice. Like, I literally just listen. Like, I'll be like, do you want it? Or like, what do you want me to do with this information? Because she may not need that, right? She's like, sometimes I just like to hear myself talk about something, and that's my way of self-reflecting. So one of my biggest key takeaways is talk it out. If you got to record yourself talking about how you feeling and you don't want nobody to know, do that too. Because sometimes you playing that back, it's eye-opening. Like, sometimes I listen to stuff that I recorded with me and Todd, and I'll be like, ooh, that girl was different back then. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I would definitely do that. But we are unfortunately have to wrap this up. But I really do hope that everyone really appreciated this mental health segment that we did. We would love to come back and talk about it more. But for the closing, there are some things that I do want you all to take away from our discussion that we just had. The first thing is, don't use the same medicine for different wounds. You have to find mechanisms to cope and to heal with different situations and different like things that come your way. Like,
and realistic situations.
Because it's not the same. The same thing that may help me heal from having a bad day is not the same thing that's gonna help me with a trauma when I was 10 years old. Yeah, it's not the same.
Right. The activists don't help everything.
It's just not. So if you take anything away, I think that's the number one thing, is do not use the same medicine for different wounds. The next is find at least one space or person to release your emotions with. And I noticed I said space or person. So again, if you got to record yourself, if you got that one friend where it's like, look, listen, and men, particularly in this generation, I'm really calling on y'all to do that, because I feel like a lot of the times women are the ones that have to fix themselves and do all this. And then it's like, I'll do this later. I'll do it later. But like, we're calling you out. Really try it and see how that works for you. And lastly, this is not even here. Be by yourself. The voice by yourself is cool, but sometimes just being by yourself, and that means taking a step away from relationships. That might mean taking a step away from friends. Be by yourself, because that's going to tell you the truth. If you can't stand yourself, you shouldn't even be able to stand other people around you.
That's a fact.
So I'm going to end it right there. But we really, really appreciate everyone. Stay tuned for the next episode. And this was Truth Be Told.
Safe up.
Stay dangerous.
Stay dangerous.
Keep chasing.
Okay.